What is up, everybody? Welcome to another Sunday, the final Sunday edition of MLB Crunch Time here on Roto Grinders. Of course, it's the 1st of September today, Labor Day weekend in the United States, and football is back on Thursday. So that means next Sunday, nobody's going to care about MLB DFS, and that's okay. But we've got one more Sunday to bring you some money-making tips, hopefully, for an MLB DFS slate. To help do that, you've got myself, Justin Van Zuden, that's STL Cardinals 84 in the Daily Fantasy Streets. We've got TJ Zwarich, as usual, doing the dual co-hosting and producing role today. TJ, what's up?
Oh, not too much. Ready to dive into a morning MLB slate from where I am, and excited to transition this to NFL. The days are going to start earlier next Sunday, and I'm thrilled. I'm really excited for NFL to get fully into gear.
So are you producing the Sunday morning NFL blocks then?
I will be. I'll be producing most of the NFL shows this year, actually. I'll have the Sunday block, I'll have anything on Saturday, and then I'll be doing most of the evening shows throughout the week. So maybe not as much FaceTime for me throughout the NFL season, but I'll be around popping in a whole lot.
You're going to be doing the Grinders Live, DJ, at 9:30 a.m. Eastern?
Sure will be. I'll be there bright and early.
That's an early day for you. 7:30
a.m. my time.
Yeah.
We'll have the coffee and the blanket ready to go to, just produce and take in the content, which is probably, producing all those shows on Sunday morning probably isn't the worst thing, man. You can kind of build some lineups in the background and get the updates and all that stuff. So that'll be starting a week from today, but we'll get you through one more Sunday slate of MLB here. A little bit of changes with rosters today as well. We'll try to pass along some of those as we go through lineups. We were just talking before the show. The Blue Jays have released a wonky lineup today. Of course, with September call-ups, each team is allowed to call up an additional 2 players if they want. And if any players want to be on postseason rosters, this is the deadline for the day for them to be on the team's roster. So I saw that the Royals yesterday claimed Robbie Grossman and Tommy Pham off waivers, and Pham is leading off for them today. So there will be some changes in the lineups. We can pass some of those along as we go through, but just be aware there might be some new names, some new faces out there today. But not a new face. We have Tim Buell alongside as well, the usual crew that we've kind of had most Sundays this year. Tim, what's going on?
Yeah, not much. Definitely been grinding the best ball streets pretty hard. I think I have 20 more left to do in the $20 DK. So yeah, I've definitely just been focusing on best ball and been playing MLB all the way through every day. So it's definitely been a grind, and I'm definitely looking forward to some NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. Busier time of the year. College football got kick-started as well this week with the whole full slate of games. So dropped some content for that myself this week. Some picks over on Scores and Odds. Shout out to Syracuse. I bet LaQuint Allen, who was their running back, over 95.5 rushing yards yesterday, and I was on tilt all afternoon. He was at 95, and Syracuse was ahead by like 16 with 2 minutes to go. He was at 95 rushing yards, bet over 95.5. Just completely, thought it was done. Looked at the end of the night, saw I had a little bit more money in my account than I expected. Syracuse gave him a carry on the final play of the game in a 16-point game. With 5 seconds to go, they gave their starting running back the football for some unknown reason, and he gained 3 yards to get up to 98. So I won my over 95.5 rushing yards bet on a completely pointless carry on the last play of the game, which makes me think that somebody on the staff,
I was just going to say,
somebody important needed those yards as well. But I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but I appreciated it. So college football, anyway, back in business as well. we'll have plenty of picks for you over at Scores and Odds, plenty of shows for the DFS side, all that good stuff. But we better dig into this final Sunday MLB. There were maybe a few lingering weather concerns earlier in the day. Sounds like maybe still a chance for a delay in New York. Not the most exciting spot for pitchers today anyway, unless you like Nestor Cortez. But that's one to maybe monitor for a delay. Everything else looks okay. But Tim, what are you looking at as far as we start to dig into the pitching today? What stands out?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely got to talk about Dylan Cease. He's 10K going up against this really, really weak Tampa Bay lineup. Like, I understand that Cease has not been great his last couple of starts, but I mean, that's just the variance of baseball. I think we continue to, use him. I would not be scared to be overweight him, even at 48% ownership that we currently have him projected for. So I think Dylan Cease is the clear SB1. I think we got to talk about the Blue Jays lineup. They're sitting Vlad, Springer, Varsho, and Kirk, and basically playing all their young guys. So that's a pretty big upgrade for Bailey Ober. So he's got to be in the conversation for your SB2. But it's also, we also have cheap bats for Toronto, so I could see an argument of playing both sides of that game. But I mean, that's a tremendous upgrade in terms of strikeouts for Bailey Ober. Sean Manaea is my preferred SB2 in cash games going up against the White Sox. Manaea's had a really, really strong, some really, really strong spike games as of late. This White Sox team is, obviously the worst team in baseball, and 8,700 just doesn't seem like enough for him. So it's really Cease and then one of Ober or Manaea for cash games. And then if you want to spread it out a little bit, I think that you could definitely get to guys like Ronald Blanco, 9K going up against the Royals. Definitely not as strong of a pitcher as Cease and an Ober, but I mean, the ownership's going to reflect that. He's going to be significantly lower owned than guys like Manaea and Cease. So I think he's a good pivot that has good upside. I think if you needed somebody really, really cheap, I think it's probably, I don't know. I kind of want to say Alex Cobb, but I'm just also a little bit worried about it. Like maybe he doesn't have like a full pitch count, but I think it's probably Alex Cobb at 6'6". If you wanted to take a really, really cheap stance on a starting pitcher.
Yeah, not the deepest slate for pitching for sure. Cease is certainly grading out as the best option. I think you're going to see a lot of combos of those three once everything gets updated for that Blue Jays lineup. I do think that Ober will shoot up in terms of ownership. His strikeout prop has come up a bit as well, basically on the same level as Manaea at the moment. So, TJ, what are you looking at as far as pitching is concerned today?
So I'm not doing the typical 150 max that I usually would, but I think even if I were, I think I would take a pretty strong stand and go with a total of a 3-pitcher pool. I think Dylan Cease, Sean Manaea, and Bailey Ober would be the extent of what I do. I think I would just I don't really like any of the cheap options today. You mentioned Cortez has a chance of a delay. Pepio's got a super tough matchup. I think I just want to go with the big three today, Manaea, Cease, and Ober, now that Blue Jays lineup is so terrible, and just run them in a full 150 lineups. I think if I were playing 3 lineups today, I'd go Cease in one of them, and in that one Cease team, I would make it a Blue Jays stack, and then the other 2 lineups, I would probably go Manaea Ober. Manaea Ober would be my preferred pairing for single entry today as well. And go with the Cease fade. But I think in MME, total of a 3-player pool, Cease, Manaea, and Ober. I saw somebody in the YouTube chat already asking top 3 pitchers for a FanDuel tournament. It's those 3. It's simply those 3, and I'm not considering anybody else today.
Yeah, it's such a narrow group, and I wasn't on the show yesterday, but this is the complete opposite of yesterday's slate. Like yesterday, I wanted to spend up for all the bats. We had so many high-end offenses in good spots, and the pitching projections just weren't. There wasn't a lot in them to where it didn't. Wheeler ended up pitching really well, but in terms of projections, at the start, there just wasn't a whole lot of points separating, and you had cheap guys like Edward Cabrera and other guys that didn't break the bank that allowed you to spend up for that high-end offense. Today is almost the exact opposite. It's like you want to spend up for these pitchers, and there's so much value for the bats today. We mentioned all these teams calling guys up. You can play anybody for Toronto that you want as a punt, hitting anywhere in the lineup. You don't take your pick if you just want a punt. But not just with Toronto, obviously they don't project as the best offense, but there's other places where there's cheap bats that project pretty well. We'll obviously go through those, but I think today is the day you spend on pitching, you save on the bats. And yeah, if you're playing over on FanDuel, they do have the Coors game over there, so you kind of got to make a decision with the Orioles, but you're only playing one pitcher there, so it's just tough to get anything cheap today. I kind of agree that I think if I'm going down there, it's probably Cobb. Hopefully he doesn't have as much of a pitch limit today, with this being, I think, his third start back. But good matchup against the Pirates, and he's a better pitcher than a 6,600 pitcher if there's no restrictions there. So I don't hate it, but I prefer getting to Cease, Manaea, Ober, maybe Pepio. I'd probably keep in my GPP pool as well, but tough matchup there. So Tim, anything else you want to add at pitcher here?
No, I think pitcher's pretty straightforward today.
Yeah, not a whole lot to get excited about. So that will take care of the pitchers. And Tim, I'll throw this one back at you here because it's a pitching related question. So NBA DFS just asked in the Discord, on FanDuel, would you consider now going with Ober over Cease in cash, given the $1,300 savings in that Toronto lineup?
Yeah, it's a much closer decision. If I still think I would go Cease, but if you find that you're sacrificing bats that you don't want to sacrifice, go down to that 9K. Go down to that 9K of Ober, because Ober is now definitely in consideration.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I think either one is certainly viable. All right, before we dig in, we'll talk stacks here in a second, but we'll get the housekeeping stuff on TJ to get some Spidey bombs today. But before I move it to that, just a couple reminders here. First, SimLabs, the expert DFS lineup generation tool from RotoGrinders and Fantasy Labs, just got even better. In addition to the desktop tool on the web, you can now download the SimLabs mobile app from the App Store and use the power of DFS simulations in the palm of your hand. That is available to be added onto combo and single sport subs, or you can buy it a la carte in the App Store. So check that out today. And another reminder that NFL Premium for the season is officially available. Now is the best time before the first week. Dip your toes in the water if you're new. Non-premium users can get over $100 off your NFL Premium subscription. Just click through the banner on RG. Again, check us out, rotogrinders.com. If you want to ask questions during the show, best spot to ask those is in the RotoGrinders Discord, rotogrinders.com/Discord. You do not have to be a paid subscriber to access that, and we are in the live stream chat channel. So hop on in there, get your questions answered. All right, TJ, where are we at for likes? What do we need? Get some home run calls today.
We're at 50, but we got a lot of people watching for a Sunday morning, and so we're going to say 100 likes for first Spidey Bomb, 150, I will drop 2 more. So smash that like button. As soon as we get to the triple digits, we will have some Spidey Bombs for you, and I'm sure Tim's got a tater or two as well.
All right, Spidey Bombs, Tim's taters. We'll get some out there later, but hit that like button. Appreciate that very much. So, all right, let's start to dig in here to the bats. Again, 9 games on DraftKings today. There are 10 games on FanDuel. You've got the Coors game over there. Don't have that available on DK. But mentioned not a whole lot for pitching, so there are some decent spots for bats. TJ, I'll let you start off. What are you looking at for stacks today?
So I do think the Yankees are the top option today, but the way I think I want to attack them is I'll try and play some cheap bats, and I do want to get to as much Judge and Soto as I can, but I think I'm probably going to pick them more as power one-offs and mini stacks as opposed to full stacks today, just because they are pretty expensive. And in Michaelis, it's not like he's going to go out there and walk a ton of guys. He's just going to put the ball in the strike zone. And so I think that makes Judge and Soto absolutely fantastic options if you can get to them. I'll play some Stanton one-offs, etc. But I'm going to be looking at this team more for power one-offs as opposed to full stack today, I think. Boston, I think, is one of the top stacks on the board for me. Houston, I'm going to be looking to get to as much of them against Marsh as I absolutely can. The Mets are probably one I'm going to be looking to. I was going to say originally in the day, I want to get really underweight on the Mets because I thought they were going to be chalky, but they're really not. And so I think the Mets are totally fine for tournaments. If you want to stack up some super cheap Blue Jays so you can play, Cease with Judge and Soto, I think that is a totally viable strategy today. Minnesota is in a really strong spot, but my favorite sneaky stack on the board today, it's Oakland. I absolutely love Oakland going into Texas. It's a big park upgrade. I think they're in a really good spot at low ownership today.
All right. Like those stacks, and I kind of agree on the Mets too. I was expecting them to be chalky, but it was tough to read. I mean, you look at, with Crochet, if this was May, right? If we went back 4 months and played this game, like Crochet would be your top starting pitching target. He was the only bright spot for the White Sox in the first half, but now they've limited his pitches, more and more every time he goes out there. His last start, there was 4 pitches before the rain delay, and then that game got axed. They're only going to let him throw like 60 or 70 pitches. Plus, he hasn't been great lately. Plus, you got the White Sox bullpen behind him. So you just never know what's going to happen in that kind of matchup these days. But Tim, what are you looking at for stacks this afternoon?
Yeah, definitely. I consider the Yankees the top overall stack on the board. There's enough teams that are really, really cheap that you might not be able to 5-man the Yankees, but you can easily get to like 3-man stacks of New York really easily, and that's including Judge and Soto. So I mean, the Yankees for me are the top overall play. Get to as many of them as you can. Mikolas he has absolutely no strikeout ability, and he's got really good control. So the ball's going to get put in play quite a bit, and when the Yankees put the ball in play, they have immense upside. So the Yankees are definitely my favorite on the board. And then I do like the Red Sox quite a bit, followed probably by the Cubs. And then I think Detroit, due to their low price tag, is super interesting and what's going to likely be a bullpen game for the Red Sox. But I love the Tigers' prices. So they're a team that you can pair with the Yankees. I like that a ton. And then I know that Toronto has like an absolutely atrocious lineup, but getting to a few pieces of that lineup allows you to do a lot with your team. So I do not mind getting to some pieces of that Toronto lineup, despite the fact they had a massive downgrade when lineups came out. And I do agree with you guys on the Mets. I think the Mets are super interesting. I didn't think they were going to be super chalky, but I didn't think they were going to be like completely forgotten about either, which it seems like they are. So I do like the Mets quite a bit. I think that's a really good call by both you guys.
7 of Toronto's hitters are priced at 3,200 or less on DraftKings. They're basically free. So, it's unfortunate. Like if this was a slate where we had like Chris Sale, Toronto would be really, really interesting as a, jam it in stack with like 2 stud pitchers. But now without a bunch of stud pitchers, right? One of the pitchers we're interested in is the guy that's facing Toronto. So you're not playing him obviously with a Toronto stack. But it would be easy to fit a Toronto stack with Dylan Cease, with Aaron Judge. That's certainly a path you could take if you wanted to, especially if you're building a lot of lineups today, because there's not going to be a whole lot of ownership there for sure. All right, we will go position by position here before we take your questions and lead up to lock. TJ, where are we sitting here before we shift gears?
We are at 93 likes, so 7 likes away from the first Spidey bomb. We'll get the second set, so 2 more at 150 likes. Make sure you're smashing that like button, and I think we'll be getting to it right after catcher.
All right, let's go ahead and move to the first position on the board today. And that would be catcher. Not a whole lot to love at this position today. A lot of the better catchers are in the late afternoon games, but Sal Perez is your only guy sitting at 5K on DraftKings. So most of the popular options, I think, are probably in that 3 and 4K range at catcher today. Tim, what are you looking at for catchers?
Yeah, so I think my favorite overall catcher is Austin Wells, batting cleanup at 4,200, right in the middle of this Yankees lineup. I think it's a reasonable price tag. Mikolas is worse against left-handed bats, so I do like Wells as my top overall catcher. I think Ryan Jeffers, again batting fourth against Rodriguez at 3,900. I like quite a bit as well. And then I think if I'm going to punt the position, it's going to be like a Carson Kelly for Texas, maybe a Dylan Dingler for Detroit, if part of like a Detroit stack at 2,600. But for me personally, I wouldn't go above Austin Wells at 4,200.
Yeah, Wells hit 2 homers in the Friday game for the Yankees, and he's been, I kind of mocked it a little bit when the Yankees started putting him in the middle of the order, but he's proven everybody wrong there with the way he's been hitting in the second half. So Wells at 4,200, probably the most popular guy on DraftKings, maybe with Yainer Diaz up there as well, hitting third for the Astros today. I kind of think those guys will be popular. I like the Cubs today, but not enough to want to play Amaya hitting ninth. I would skip him if you're doing Cubs stacks. So, TJ, what do you like at catcher today?
Yeah, obviously Diaz, Wells, Jeffers, all of them really strong options. I don't actually think Jeffers is going to be quite as highly owned as we are projecting him. I think he's probably going to be a little lower than that. So I do like him quite a bit. Shea Langelier is my favorite, though. I obviously talked about loving the Oakland stack, so Shea is definitely going to be my favorite guy in there. Don't mind mixing in some Connor Wong, some Carson Kelly, little Dylan Dingler, totally fine with that. But basically just anyone in my stack, Jeffers in the mid-tier or Langelier up top are my favorites.
All right, and did we get to 100 likes?
I'm assuming we did. Refreshing right now, 103. I expected a bigger surge. Come on, guys, let's get up to 150. But yes, we did reach 100 likes, so we got enough for Spidey Bum number 1. Plays for the Twins. Matt Wallner plus 480 is the first Spidey Bum on the board today.
Right, I like Wallner today. I think he's a nice value as well, so I am on board with that call.
I'm going to give out my. I'm going to give out a real quick. Sure. Yeah, Trevor Larnach plus 750 on FanDuel.
Everybody likes the Twins. It's a party. I gotta find a twin now. It's I can cheat because you guys took the cheat. I can just say Royce Lewis and then I sound smart. But we all like the Twins today, so load up. I don't mind some Twins home runs bets, and they're fairly affordable for DFS. So a stack that I like today as well. All right, let's go ahead and pivot over to first base. TJ, what are you looking at over at first today?
First base, top guys on the board for me are going to be probably Patrick Wisdom is a cheapie or Luken Baker. Like, this is a position that we don't have to be spending up today. So Wisdom and Baker, I think, are probably the top 2 options. I like Seth Brown in the lefty-lefty spot. Love me some Tristan Cassis today for Boston. And Pete Alonso, perfectly fine. Don't mind him. That's kind of the extent of it for my favorite options today.
Yeah, this position is weak today. I know it hasn't been great all year, but like when I pulled up the projections first thing this morning and you pull it up now, if you sort the fantasy point projections at first base on DraftKings, Paul Goldschmidt is the number 1 guy. Look, I've watched Paul Goldschmidt swing and miss 8,000 times this year. He's probably gone at the end of the year. He's been better lately, but I don't think there's been many slates this year where Goldschmidt's been in the top 8 for projection, at gross fantasy point projection at first base. I'm not telling you can't play him hitting cleanup against Cortez, but it just goes to show most of the high-end first basemen have tough matchups today. I just don't see anyone I want to pay for here, and it just feels like a position where you got to go with a value guy today. So, Tim, what do you got at first?
Yeah, I'm really very much in line with TJ. For cash games, it's either Patrick Wisdom or Lucan Baker. I'd say if you do have, more money to spend up on a one-off, it would either be Tristan Cassis or Pete Alonso for me. But really, this is a really, really weak position. This is like an only in stacks position for me, really. So it's really weak. If you're playing cash, I'd go, like I said, it's either Wisdom or Baker.
Yeah, tough spot to feel comfortable with today. I'll go with Baker over Wisdom just by a nose, especially on DraftKings. It's a good bit of savings there as well, $1,100. So that makes a difference. Wisdom, I mean, you can play them both and play Wisdom at third if you want, but yeah, I'll go with Baker there myself. And otherwise, Chaparro hitting third for Washington, I think is fine also. At 2,700. So definitely a position where you can look to save today for sure. All right.
I just got word in my ear that not only will there be Spidey bombs at 150 likes, but actually we will also have a potential Dean appearance, Dean cameo at 150 likes.
Oh man, people are going to take their likes away. Dean's going to show up on my screen, or he's going to show up in the chat?
On the screen.
Oh no. Maybe that's got to be the all right, that's got to be the mustache pick or something. We'll see. We don't know if it's real life Dean or fake Dean, but we'll find out. Hit the like button, get to 150, and we'll see. Now we got to know just for the surprise. All right, second base, Tim. What do you got?
Yeah, another really not so great position. Andre Jimenez at 3,600 as a really, really reasonable cash game play. I think Labor Torres is obviously a great play as well, even though I prefer getting to the lefties. He's going to be batting leadoff in a really, really strong spot. So obviously like him a little bit. And then really like a guy like maybe even like Zach McKinstry or somebody like that, like real cheap punt, Sosa for the White Sox at 2-2. Again, like this is a position where I don't feel like you have very much opportunity cost. So I don't think it's horrible to punt this spot. So if you don't want to pay up, I think you should just pay. You should just pay all the way down. Like if you don't want to pay up for Jimenez or Torres, just go under 3K, because I think this position is pretty horrible.
Yeah, we haven't gotten a whole lot of excitement at first or second today with the high end options. So again, the thought process behind a lot of this being you can pay up at pitcher because there's going to be cheap options at most of the positions today that grade out just as well as some of the spendy guys. So TJ, second base.
Yeah, just absolutely terrible position today. Obviously, guys like Altuve stand out as a top raw points option, and then Jimenez and Torres in the mid tier. But I'm with Tim. I think I want to just try and like fully punt this as often as I can and play one of the 2K guys. If I'm not playing Cease, I'll play the other Jimenez, Leo Jimenez. Ober. If I'm not playing him, I'll play Leo Jimenez at 2,500 at batting fifth today. But it's just such a gross position. I think I just want to punt it so that I can spend up and play Judge and Soto and things like that. And then only other guy I'd want to mention is Zach Geloff if I'm playing an Oakland stack.
All right. Yeah, that's pretty good for second base. We don't need to spend any more manpower on that. I'm going to refresh the likes myself because I just want to know how close we are to Dean. 144. Need 6 likes to figure out. People are speculating in the chat. It's the rave of September here. We've got the September 1st surprise just ready to roll. If 6 more people click the like button. 148. All right, yeah, they're clicking it fast and furious to get to 150. We'll have whatever that surprise may hold after we get through third base here. So 154. Do we need to do third base first, TJ? Do you need to prepare for whatever this surprise is?
Well, the first things we are going to do, because we have hit over 150 likes, is Spidey Bombs. I promised the people more Spidey Bombs at 150, and you got them. And so, number one, of course, Matt Wallner at plus 480. Number two, at plus 470, we have my guy Ian Happ, a favorite of the Spidey Bombs. And then finally, I better double check what his is here. At a whopping plus 825 today. I don't think we're necessarily going to have to worry about pinch hit risk because he's been actually starting against righties lately too. I'm going Daz Cameron at plus 825 today to hit a home run against the lefty. And so we got some Spidey Bombs for the people. Always like when we get some Spidey Bombs. We got some Tim's Taters earlier in the day. And now, of course, it is time for the Dean cameo. Everybody say hi to Dean. What's up? Thanks for joining us today, Dean. The people wanted you, and here you are. So welcome, Dean. Looking absolutely fantastic as always. And
there you go. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking that mustache pick.
We are so happy that you could join us today, my friend. And we were just talking about the People Show, Grinders Live. We're going to have to be up early in the day. We'll be joining you. I'll be there behind the scenes. Tim's going to be there. It's going to be a great time. So shout out to Dean. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know he enjoys the Spidey Bombs quite a bit, agrees with them. Third base, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
With probably the top option here, but I don't mind Royce Lewis as a potential spend up today. Like we talked about the Twins liking them quite a bit. I think Jose Ramirez is a wonderful low-owned spend-up, as is Rafael Devers. Jace Jung, if you need a cheap option. And then Jazz Chisholm, either as part of your Yankee stack or as a one-off. Absolutely fantastic.
All right. Tim, what do you got at third base today?
Yeah, I think Jazz is the best tournament play on the entire slate. We currently have him at 3.5% owned. He's 5,500, so he's tough to get to, but there's plenty of value on the slate. So for GPPs, I think he's a really, really sharp play. Would be my spend up option. My cash game option probably would be Chase Young at 2.7. Like Justin said, like we're punting all these positions so we can pay up at pitching and then pay up at outfield, or shortstop. So really, it's probably going to be Chase Young for me in cash, but I absolutely love Jazz in tournament builds.
Yeah, and Jazz, comparatively speaking, if you're playing over on FanDuel, I think is a little easier to get over there. So, but definitely won't be popular on DK. So, I mentioned at first base, I don't think I've seen a slate where Paul Goldschmidt has been the chalk, or not necessarily the chalk, but the highest projected first baseman all year. And now we also have a slate where Dansby Swanson, it's been Gunnar and Ellie and Abrams and all these Seager, all these top end shortstops we want to pay for all year. And now we've got Dansby Swanson as the chalk. What is this? Have we gone back in time? Is this 2021? I'm not sure what's going on today, but it's Dansby Swanson projecting as the highest owned shortstop today. So Tim, what are you doing at short?
Yeah, I'm going to go Swanson route and cash. I can completely understand if people want to go a different direction in other contests. I mean, we have excellent options like, Corey Seager is a fantastic play. I always look up his home run odds, but they're always too short for me to bet, so I just don't bother. But I love Seager quite a bit. I love O'Neal Cruz, despite the fact that I think Cobb is a decent pitcher, but I think O'Neal Cruz at 3% ownership as a one-off is a fantastic play. I could get behind Willie Castro, CJ Abrams. So this position is really, really strong. But yeah, for cash, I think it is Dansby.
TJ, what do you like at shortstop?
Yeah, I agree from a cash perspective, it's definitely Dansby because you just play the cheap guys throughout the infield, then you get to play your expensive pitchers, you get to play Judge and whoever else you want. And so that's definitely the route I'd take there. But in tournaments, we've talked all year about how strong of a position this is, and it still is. People just aren't playing them because there's cheap options. Bobby Witt Jr., sub 5%, sign me up. Lindor, single-digit ownership, sign me up. Same with Seager. Abrams, Cruz, absolutely love these plays today. I think if you just play any of these 5 options, you're looking in a really good spot with Seager being the highest owned at only 10% today. So definitely think that any of these spend up options are fantastic today. Bobby Witt, probably my preference. O'Neill Cruz, probably number 2 for tournaments.
All right, let's take it to the outfield here, and then we will get to questions. TJ, I'll stick with you. What do we like in the outfield today?
So I think if I'm building a lineup that I can't afford Aaron Judge or Juan Soto, I'm totally fine with going to Yordan Alvarez. Absolutely great play today at 6,100. I would say from a raw points perspective in the outfield, I'd have him 3rd. But because he's only 6,100, I think that puts him in a really a really great spot as the top option. Matt Wallner, I think, is the best salary saving option in the outfield today. I do love Soto as well. Like I said, he is number 2 behind Judge for raw points for me. Seiya Suzuki, Ian Happ, the Spidey Bomb, any of these basically Minnesota or Cubs players, I'm perfectly fine with in the outfield. But my favorite for tournaments, like I mentioned before, is Oakland. Brent Rooker in tournaments at 6K. I absolutely adore today. If you need somebody really cheap, you have Daz Cameron as a potential option. Lawrence Butler in the mid-tier. All 3 of these guys I really like for tournaments today.
Yeah, lots of options here in the outfield, both in the value and spend up. So we've mentioned a lot of value guys pretty much at every position. So you can kind of take your lineup whatever way you want to take it today. In terms
if I
of
could
value.
only play outfielders and shortstops today, I would.
The
util,
full util lineup. All right, Tim, outfield.
So yeah, I think that you should definitely be playing Aaron Judge and Juan Soto in cash games, and we've punted enough positions where you can really do that. It's really not impossible. So those 2 are my 2 favorite spend ups for cash games. Like TJ said, if you can't get up to Soto, I guess Alvarez is okay too. But I really do prefer the Yankees. So I would try to prioritize Soto over Alvarez. I agree with TJ. If you don't want to go like the full spend up options with the Yankees, I think the Cubs outfielders like Suzuki and Happ are really viable, strong alternatives to that. I think Parker Meadows is a really good mid-range play in all formats. But really, like the Twins, like Matt Wallner and Larnach and Kepler, I think are interesting as well. But really, I wouldn't go like too low at outfield. Like outfield's a spot where I want to prioritize my salary, regardless if I'm stacking, regardless if I'm playing cash or tournaments. I love outfield today, so I really want to utilize my salary at the outfield spot.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just because of the opportunity cost of the players available at the positions, etc. It's tough to just say, I want to go cheap in the outfield. Much easier to go cheap at some of those other positions that, as we've talked about pretty much at length throughout the show here today. So agree with that kind of thought process. All right, 6 minutes left until lock. I'm going to go into the Discord and clean up the questions here. So get your questions in now if you want to get them answered here in the next 5 minutes. TJ, any Spidey bombs, likes, housekeeping before we get to questions?
If we do get up over 200, I'm sure Spidey and I could whip something up together. So that's why. Sorry, I was reading something in chat at the same time. There's a discussion in the YouTube chats about people are fading Ober today because Ober is going to be chalky now, but they're still playing Cease and Manaea. If you're worried about chalk, Ober is still definitely going to be the lower owned option than Cease and Manaea. So he is the tournament pivot off of them. He's going to be much less chalky than Dylan Cease and Sean Manaea are today. But if we get up over 200, then I'll Spidey and I can whip up one more Spidey Mo.
All right, questions in the Discord. Tim, I'll throw this back to you because this goes to that discussion we were having earlier from NBA DFS on could you go with Ober over Cease and Cash. So the combos that he ended up with are either Ober and Soto or Cease and Wallner. So with that as the context, which one do you prefer?
I guess I'd go over Soto.
All right, JT Money with his usual question. 3 lineups, 3 different pitchers on FanDuel GPP. I know TJ mentioned earlier possibly just using that 3 pitcher pool today. So, TJ, any change to that?
On FanDuel, on draft, I would probably do the 3, but honestly, I think I would probably, with those prices, I would on FanDuel, I would probably do Ober and 2. Just because he's 9K while the others are above 10. I do think it's worse than I do think it's worth saying that, like, on FanDuel specifically, I think Ober is actually the better cash option than Cease, just because of that $1,300 price difference.
And Manaea is pretty expensive on FanDuel, comparatively speaking, as well. So that is a factor. All right, JMVP, no love for a Cleveland stack today. I know we didn't really mention Cleveland. I don't stack Cleveland a whole lot. Just hard to get super excited about their lineup. I mean, Mitch Keller hasn't been as good lately for sure, but still a tough pitcher to stack against. So, TJ, Tim, any interest in Cleveland stacks?
Not really for me, no.
Not someone I'd consider in single entry, but if I'm building a lot of lineups, yeah, I think Cleveland's very much in play, just in case. Like, Keller's been dealing with those velocity issues. He ramped it back up last game, but you never really know where that's going to be. So I think they're definitely viable for MME.
Yeah, in a single entry, I probably wouldn't get there today. All right, Razzle says best cash outfield on DraftKings. Outfielder on DraftKings at 6,300 or less. So basically,
So
cash
it's Alvarez then.
Yeah, cash outfielder that's not on the Yankees would be Alvarez for me as well. All right, about 2 minutes left until lock here. I don't see any updates in the Discord or anything that we've missed yet. I'm looking for lineup updates because sometimes there are, but don't see any changes other than some of the later afternoon lineups coming out. Let's see. Going over to the YouTube. So Joe says that Orioles lineup is different and disgusting today. So a lot of them are going to look that way.
We had a question about this earlier too, and I do think maybe it's worth considering with a bad Orioles lineup. I forgot to address this in the YouTube chat, but maybe it's worth considering utilizing a little bit of. Oh wait, no, never mind. That doesn't make sense. I confused myself. Ignore me. Somebody asked about Zach Eflin, who was pitching for the Orioles earlier, and I just kind of mess with myself thinking, hey, if that lineup's trash, maybe we can pitch against them. But
no, don't use Quantrill. That's probably still a little too
no Quantrill.
But yeah, that Orioles line just came out a few minutes ago. So Slater, Santander, Henderson, Jimenez, Rivera, Mayo, Mullins, McCann, and Holiday behind Zach Eflin today. So they're giving some guys a breather as well. I was not super high on the Orioles for what it's worth on FanDuel anyways. You know, Quantrill is at least not a mega gas can. So I wasn't super high on Baltimore anyway, probably even less so now. I mean, I think they're fine, but given the wealth of available options we have for bats today, I wasn't prioritizing them. Let's see. So Jib on the Discord is asking if Mayo batting 6th is a pinch hit risk or Tenna. Mayo may be a pinch hit risk later in the game for sure if it's close. I mean, I probably would still play him in that case between those two, but maybe a slight pinch hit risk today. Brink says, is the weather okay? Slight chance of a delay, Ross says, in New York at some point during the game. So I'm not using Cortez anyway. The game's going to play fine eventually. But otherwise, everything looks okay. Beaner says, for FanDuel GPPs, do you like any Toronto players? Tim, how are you handling Toronto?
I mean, I think they're completely fine, especially if Over's going to get steamed up, which I think he's going to be. So, I mean, there's definitely viable punt options for Toronto. So I don't mind them at all.
TJ, you got any Toronto?
It's like I said, if I was playing 3 lineups today, I think I would do Ober in 2 of them, and then in the one that doesn't have him, I think I would be at least mini sacking the cheap options on the Blue Jays so I could load up on Judge, Soto, maybe Alvarez, all in the same lineup.
All right, good enough. That takes us up to the lock, and we'll take care of our Sunday MLB shows for the season with NFL cranking back up next week. There will be like no MLB prize pools out there at all. So we appreciate you hanging with us all year. If you haven't already, at least as a thanks for coming in every Sunday morning, hit the like button for us. We appreciate that very much. Thanks to Tim and TJ for joining as well, and TJ for doing the double duty with the producing side. Also, I'm Justin. It's been great talking with y'all every weekend, and we'll still be here on Saturdays going forward, but just not on Sundays with NFL season. So hope you all have a great rest of your weekend, holiday weekend for many of you. We'll be back here for the start of the new week tomorrow. Until then, for Tim, for TJ, I'm Justin. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you later.